Hey everyone, before we get started, last week I told you to tune in this week because I have some exciting news. Now, there have been some who've emailed or called and texted me wanting to know what the news was. They didn't want to have to wait a whole week. Well, I told you to tune in, and here we go. This is the exciting news. So, as you know, Valentine's Day is coming up, and those drugstore chocolates are so overpriced, and those roses are going to wilt by Tuesday. But let's do something together this Valentine's Day. I want to invite you to the last story standing. We're coming to you live on February 14th at 9 a.m. Pacific time, straight from the Art Love Salon in beautiful Seattle, Washington. I'll be joining 7 other brave storytellers on that stage, and let me tell you, we're not going to have scripts and we're not going to have shortcuts. We're bringing the raw, unpolished, hilarious, and sometimes heartbreaking moments that make us human. We're talking about the stories of love, loss, and growth that usually only happen when the cameras aren't rolling. Why? Well, because storytelling has a superpower. It reminds us that we're not alone in our messiness. It tells us that our experiences actually matter. So if you're in the Seattle area, register and join us for free food. I hear there may be mimosas and wine, chocolates from a local chocolatier, and lunch from the famous Bakery Nouveau. Now here's the best part. You can also join us from anywhere in the world. Virtual attendance is completely free. You get to grab your coffee, cozy up in your favorite chair, and be part of the magic. And yes, you get to vote for your favorite storyteller. I'm not saying who you should pick, but here's a secret. I've been practicing my winner's face in the mirror. So bring your curiosity and bring your heart. Visit bridgingsuccess.com, click About, then Events to find registration information for Last Story Standing and to see the full list of storytellers. Virtual attendees must also register to receive the link. So let's spend some time together on Valentine's Day, feeling a little more connected and a lot more inspired. I can't wait to see you there. Welcome to the Acceptance Project podcast. I'm your host, Bryan. Someone once said there are things we only learn once life has already charged us interest. And honestly, well, that feels about right. We've all heard the sayings, youth is wasted on the young, live and learn, there's no lesson like a good lesson, and of course my favorite, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. At this point, some of us should be able to bench press a Buick with the amount of strength we were promised from their experiences and questionable life choices. And yet, here we are, making the same mistake again and again with confidence, hoping this time the outcome might magically be different. Einstein had a word for that, insanity. It's actually been a part of my email signature for years, which makes it extra humbling that I still repeat patterns I swore I'd outgrown. Apparently, wisdom does not arrive with the receipt or return policy. So take a few minutes to take a break from your daily chores, doom scrolling on social media, and all the noise of daily life routines. Let's spend a few minutes reflecting on the lessons we have learned. So today's podcast is about 11 lessons of life. Not the kind you learn in a classroom, the kind you collect quietly, usually after a moment that made you sit down and rethink everything. Now, as much as I would like to take credit for writing these 11 lessons, I did not. I found them one day stuck to a bulletin board while walking across campus. Just a simple list, no author, no explanation, just 11 truths staring back at me like they knew something I was still pretending not to see. I thought about each one, lived a few, fought some, and ignored others until they showed up louder. So here we go. Rule number 1. The less you say, the more your words will matter. Now, early in life, we think volume equals value. We talk to fill space, to prove something, to be seen. Somewhere along the way, we realize the quiet person at the table is often the one everyone leans toward when it really matters. This rule isn't about silence, it's about intention. That silence makes some people feel uncomfortable, so they talk to fill the space. For others, they just like the sound of their own voice. I heard a saying many years ago, and I think it's true. There's a reason God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. He wanted us to do more listening and less talking. I learned this the hard way after saying something I couldn't take back. You know that feeling you get as soon as the words leave your mouth, you want to just run around the room and gather them back up? You know the moment. But words are a lot like the air we breathe. We don't see them, but we feel them. And sometimes the way they land with others and even ourselves makes the air seem heavy. When you choose your words instead of scattering them, people listen. And more importantly, you start listening to yourself. Now, rule number 2 is one that don't take this personally, but not everyone thinks about you as much as you think they do. At first, this idea can feel a little uncomfortable, but give it a moment and it turns into freedom. Imagine everyone walking around as the lead character in their own very busy film. They're juggling deadlines, replaying awkward conversations from 5 years ago, worrying about money, family, or maybe did they leave the stove on? When someone cuts you off in traffic, forgets to text you back, or seems distant in a meeting, it usually has far more to do with their own storyline than anything you did. You're not the villain in their scene. Most of the time, you're just passing through the background. And instead of feeling hurt by that, you get to feel lighter because it means you don't have to carry every reaction, mood, or silence as a verdict of your own worth. Remember that awkward look someone gave you? That short reply, the email that felt colder than it needed to be, the plan that got canceled at the last minute. Chances are none of it had anything to do with you. It had everything to do with whatever they were carrying that day. It might be a little more eye-opening if the struggles everyone carried were visible to everyone. So then we might have a better understanding of one another's feelings and daily struggles. I spent years replaying conversations like a detective with too much coffee and not enough sleep, zooming in on tone, rewinding facial expressions, or looking for hidden meaning like it was a buried treasure. And eventually, I realized something. Most of those moments weren't personal. They were just human. Tired humans, distracted humans, sometimes overwhelmed humans who didn't have the emotional bandwidth for perfect delivery. When you stop assuming everything is about you, something shifts. Your shoulders drop. Your breath gets deeper. You stop rehearsing imaginary apologies and start reclaiming your energy. And what you gain in that letting go is something no one can hand you. It's peace. Maybe now is a good time to remind you to go back to the podcast from December 2nd of 2025 called Protect Your Peace and give it another listen. Protecting our peace should always be our number one priority. And this brings us to rule number 3. When you focus on problems, you'll have more problems. When you focus on possibilities, you'll have more opportunities. Problems multiply when they're fed attention like a stray cat behind a restaurant. I've noticed that when I wake up looking for what's wrong, I find it everywhere. Traffic, emails, co-workers, even the bathroom scale seems to be eyeing me with that look of, don't blame me, you knew those desserts weren't fat-free. But when I look for what's possible, even on bad days, my brain starts finding all these opportunities. Now, this isn't toxic positivity, it's practical survival. You can acknowledge the storm without building a house in it. Am I saying never focus on your problems? Well, of course not. Am I encouraging you to focus more on your strengths and less on your weaknesses? Bingo. I knew our time together was starting to make a difference. When we shift our focus, we begin to see where the opportunities to grow outshine the glaring mistakes you seem to be making. Now, rule number 4 is definitely something that probably all of us have experienced. No matter how much it hurts now, someday you'll look back and realize your struggle changed your life for the better. No one believes this in the middle of pain, and that's okay. Pain doesn't require optimism. It requires honesty. But time has a funny way of revealing meanings we couldn't see while we were surviving. There are moments I wouldn't relive for $1 million, yet I wouldn't erase them either. They shaped my voice, my boundaries, my compassion. One day you'll look back and realize the thing that tried to break you taught you how to stand. I remember playing baseball as a kid. You slide into home plate, dive for a ball, or whatever one of the million ways we could find to hurt ourselves. The coach would just clap his hands and say, "Walk it off. It'll feel better when it stops hurting." Well, thank you for that little nugget of wisdom. I still don't know what it means, but throughout my life, I've encountered problems. I didn't face them because I was strong. I faced them because I wasn't given any other choice but to face them. So what did I do? Yeah, I walked it off, and the coach was right. Felt so much better when the hurt was gone. Now, rule number 5 is more about the people that have sort of drifted in and maybe even drifted out of our lives. So rule number 5 says, you meet people for a reason. Either they change your life or you change theirs. Not everyone is meant to stay. Some people are chapters, not the whole book. I used to measure relationships by how long they lasted. Now I measure them by what they taught me. Some people show up to heal you. Some show up to challenge you. Some show up so you can practice letting go with grace. Every connection leaves a fingerprint, even the painful ones. How many of us have allowed people to be in our lives long after their expiration date? Sometimes the familiar is better than the unknown. Even when that familiar causes pain, the return of our investment is not working out. But yet, we allow that person to remain in our lives. What's worse than allowing them to remain in your life is evicting them, but then allowing them to live rent-free in your head. I know I've said this before. It's like taking the garbage out and then sneaking back out to the curb late at night to go through it, thinking you might find something worth salvaging. Go to bed. It isn't there. It isn't going to be there tomorrow either. I finally realized that I would rather be alone and be happy than be with someone and be unhappy. We aren't going to be getting any do-overs. We got one chance and that's it. Enjoy the ride and kick those who drag you down off your ride. Now, rule number 6 is something that I can honestly say I've learned. I'm not afraid of taking chances. And if you know me, then you know that packing up and selling my house in Kentucky and moving to California and now to Seattle, it was scary to do that, but it was a challenge. And it was something that I was excited to do. So rule number 6 says, never be afraid to try something new. Life gets boring when you refuse to color outside the lines. Comfort zones are cozy, but wildly uncreative. Every meaningful change in my life started with discomfort, awkwardness, or the thought, well, this might be a terrible idea. New experiences wake you up. They remind you that you're still growing, not just aging. Trying something new doesn't guarantee success. It guarantees adventure. Now, who remembers as a kid we played the game Red Rover, we dare Bryan over? For those of you who never played this game, let me explain it quickly. 2 teams stand opposite of one another. One team holds hands tightly and dares someone from the other team to run and try to break through the human chain of hands. If you break the chain, you bring a member back to your team. If you don't, then the other team captures you. The first team to get all the members wins the game. Sounds easy, right? Well, remember that exhilaration you felt when you heard your name called? You knew this was your time to shine. You eye the opposing team and decide which 2 hands seem to be the weakest, and that becomes your target. You take off running as fast as you can. Everyone's cheering, and you hit those 2 hands with the full force of your body, and you break the chain. You did it. You won. You felt pride. You never knew if you were going to be successful, but you gave it your all. I think every day we should stop what we're doing and play a game of Red Rover, Duck, Duck, Goose, or maybe even hide and seek. The only problem with that is most of us would probably sneak away for a quick nap and forget to return to the game. Stop being afraid. Take the chance. Buy the sports car. Get that haircut. Take that trip. Remember, you only get one chance. Now, rule number 7, unfortunately, sometimes it hurts. You'll never truly know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory. We rush through moments like they're disposable. Then one day they show up unexpectedly and knock the wind out of us. Maybe it was a laugh you didn't savor, a goodbye you thought was ordinary, a season you assumed would last longer. Life doesn't announce which moments will matter later, so hold them a little longer. Notice them while they're still happening. Hold hands while you go for a walk in the rain. Don't be too macho to laugh at the silly things. Dance. Remember Maury Schwartz we met on the podcast from November 24th of 2025? It was titled A Tuesday Kind of Wisdom. He taught us to dance like we may never dance again. We don't have to have rhythm. We don't have to be coordinated. Just move and laugh. Years ago, I came across a photograph that never really left me. A small group of young people stood along a fence, gathered for a sunset that clearly knew it was performing. The sky was washed in a deep orange with soft pinks feathered across the horizon and quiet blues drifting through the clouds like they were taking their time. It's one of those evenings that makes you stop mid-sentence, the kind you may never see quite the same way again. Every one of those young faces were turned toward the glow, but their eyes weren't on the sky. They were fixed on their phones, holding the sunset at arm's length, framing it through glass, capturing it for later, $1,000 device between them and the moment itself. And then there was a woman standing just ahead of them. She was older, she was very still, empty-handed. No phone, no photo, just her face lifted toward the fading light. She let the breeze brush past her. She let the colors sink in. She chose to witness the moment instead of collecting it. She didn't store the sunset in her pocket. She carried it with her, in memory, in feeling, in presence. And somehow, standing there holding nothing, she held the most. Now, rule number 8 is one that I have to admit I'm still working on. And that is, once you begin to notice what you're grateful for, you begin to lose sight of what you lack. When I learned how to be grateful for what I had, something quiet but powerful happened. I stopped resenting what I didn't have. The room didn't suddenly get bigger, but the windows opened and the air moved. Gratitude doesn't erase struggle, but it changes the lighting. I didn't start with big poetic moments. I started small, one thing a day. A warm meal, a good sandwich eaten without rushing, a text that came at the right time, a laugh that surprised me. And over time, something unexpected happened. The list of what I lacked didn't disappear, but it stopped shouting. It moved to the background. I could finally hear what was already working. Gratitude isn't settling for less. It's seeing clearly enough to realize you already have more than you thought. How often do we rush past our blessings because we've forgotten there was a time when we prayed for what we have right now? Late nights, quiet prayers, promises we made to ourselves if things would just get a little better. And now here they are, surrounding us, unnoticed, while our eyes keep drifting toward whatever looks greener on the other side. There will always be another pasture, another peak in the distance, another version of life whispering just a little more. That's not failure. That's being human. But don't get so consumed chasing what's next that you abandon what's already growing beneath your feet. Because it's possible to wander so far in search of better that you lose the very ground that once held everything you needed. Now, rule number 9 might be my favorite. And I'm going to share a little story here. I think it's funny. My mom may not think it's funny. But I've always laughed and said that I taught my mom how to pray because as I was growing up, whenever I started talking, she started praying. So, sorry, Mom. But anyway, rule number 9. If you do not have control over your mouth, you do not have control over your future. Words create consequences faster than almost anything else. I've watched opportunities open and close based on a single sentence, sometimes spoken, sometimes typed too quickly. Your mouth can build bridges or it can light matches. Learning when not to speak is as powerful as knowing what to say. A sword can wound the body, but the tongue can wound the story someone tells about themselves. I once met a grown adult who still heard a sentence a teacher spoke to them when they were 12. Not shouted, not screamed, just said casually, "You're not very bright, are you?" That single line outlived report cards, degrees, promotions, and praise. Long after the moment passed, the words stayed. Every mistake echoed them. Every risk felt heavier. The body healed. The moment ended, but the sentence kept living rent-free in their mind. That's the power of the tongue. It doesn't just hurt, it rewrites identity. Time may dull the pain. Forgiveness may loosen its grip. But the scar remains, not as an open wound, but as a reminder. A hesitation before speaking up. A flinch before trying again. A voice lowered before it ever has the chance to rise. A sword cuts once. Words keep cutting. They linger. They shape. They either build shelter or leave someone exposed to the cold. Which is why learning to control the tongue isn't about politeness. It's about responsibility. Because once words leave your mouth, they belong to the person who has to live with them. Rule number 10 is one that I hope you will really just hold on to and really think about. Life is a mirror. It reflects back what you think into it. Life listens closely to how you talk to yourself. We touched on this last week when we talked about being a little kinder in the way we move through the world. That kindness has to start inward. Because even when your inner voice is harsh, the world begins to feel like it's constantly pushing back. Everything feels heavier, louder, less forgiving. Try this. Speak to yourself the way you would speak to a small child who is still learning. You wouldn't shame them for not knowing yet. You wouldn't rush them through the lesson. You guide them, encourage them, remind them that it's okay to try again. Just because we're older doesn't mean we're finished. We're still growing, still learning, still becoming, and we deserve the same patience we so freely offer others. This isn't about pretending everything is fine. It's about recognizing that the tone you use with yourself shapes how life feels when it answers back. Change the story you tell yourself, soften the language, and the reflection begins to shift. And now here we are at the end of the 11 lessons of life. Number 11. And I feel like maybe this one was left at the end because it wanted to be a last reminder for you. The only person you have to face in the morning is yourself. Be unbeatable. Every morning before the rest of the world gets a vote, I see myself in the mirror. No filters, no audience, just me. And at night, when the day finally exhales, I'm there again, standing at the sink, brushing my teeth, meeting my own eyes one last time before sleep. Those are the moments that matter most. What am I thinking when I look at myself? What do I believe about who I am today, about my ideas, my dreams, my missteps, my quiet failures? Am I happy with how I showed up? Am I proud of the effort I gave, even if the results weren't flashy? Maybe today didn't come with the applause or confetti. No one danced in the streets because of what you accomplished. But maybe today was still important. Maybe today was the day you chose a new direction. Maybe you walked a little farther than usual, ate something that treated your body better. Maybe you said no to that drink or those drinks that had quietly become part of your evening routine. Maybe you spoke to yourself with a little more kindness. Or, well, maybe today you simply decided that tomorrow you're going to break a habit that's had you cornered for a long time. Whatever it was that today asked of you, be unbeatable. Be your best. And notice I didn't say be the best. I said be your best. Some days my best looks like getting out of bed, showering, and getting dressed, and that's enough. Other days I feel like I could move mountains and slay dragons. Most days fall somewhere in between, where courage looks more like trying again tomorrow. So whatever you dream of, hope for, or believe in, give it the best you have for this day. Not yesterday's strength, not tomorrow's expectations, just today. Don't rush past the moment you're in. Relish it. Remember that older woman soaking in the sunset while everyone else stared at their screens? Leave the applause and the picture taking to others. Today, your only job is to look yourself in the mirror and know you did a little better than before. As we come to the end of the podcast for today, I want to invite you to do something simple but meaningful. Write these 11 lessons down, all of them, or even maybe just the one that keeps tugging at you. Put them somewhere you'll see them, on your mirror, in your wallet, on your desk, somewhere. Just somewhere life can bump into them while you're busy being human. Not as rules you have to live up to, but as reminders you get to come back to. Because none of us learn these lessons all at once. We circle them. We revisit them. We relearn them in different seasons of our lives. And as you do, be kinder to yourself, gentler, more forgiving. Growth doesn't happen because we're harsh with ourselves. It happens because we're patient enough to keep going. Just because you're older doesn't mean you're finished. You're still learning, still becoming, still worthy of grace, especially from yourself. Now, if this episode spoke to you, chances are there's someone else you know who's still learning these lessons as well. Someone who may need a reminder that they're not behind, they're just human. Share this podcast with them. Send it to a friend, a family member, someone who could use a little encouragement today. And if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It really helps more people find the show. The more we share these conversations, the more we spread the heart of what this space is about. Acceptance. Acceptance of ourselves, of each other, of the imperfect, unfinished journey we're all on together. So take these lessons with you. Hold them loosely. Return to them often. And remember, you don't have to have life figured out to be doing it well. And just remember, growth isn't a race, and there is no finish line you're late to. You don't have to measure your progress against someone else's highlighted reel or hurry your healing to make anyone comfortable. You're allowed to move at the pace that honors your heart, your history, and the lessons you're still unpacking. So until next time, take care of yourself and take care of one another. The Acceptance Project podcast is a production of Bridging Success, LLC. To learn more about the podcast and our work, please visit bridgingsuccess.com. This podcast and its contents are for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. I'm Dr. Bryan Gross, but I'm not a licensed therapist. The topics and opinions shared by me and any guests are our own and should not replace professional or medical advice. If you're seeking mental health support, medical guidance, or help with personal matters, please reach out to a licensed professional who can provide the individual support you need.